So I would say we start. Welcome everybody to our Nomasis webinar. My name is Nadine and I'm pleased to introduce to you Fabian from Nomasis, Patrick from Yubico and Bernhard from PointSharp who will be presenting today. In today's webinar, we'll talk about phishing-resistant digital identity. The sessions last about 30 minutes. Please notice that the webinar will be recorded and during the presentations, your microphones will be set to mute. This Tech Talk will be an interactive webinar, so you may post questions during the session by pressing the hand button and unmuting yourself, or you can also use the chat function and then ask the questions to the host. The questions will then be answered right afterwards. So now I'd like to hand over to Fabian. You can start your presentation.
Thank you, Nadine. Before we dive deep into the subject, I just want to introduce myself, Fabian Mauricio. I'm working as an IT engineer at Nomasis. And today I will present you just a short introduction before giving the stage to Patrick from Yubico.
Hello.
Just a quick agenda from this webinar, of this Tech Talk. We'll just have a short introduction first. Then we will explore what are the current risks and what's the digital identity. Why is a phishing-resistant MFA needed? Why would you use phishing-resistant MFA with YubiKeys? This part will be done by Patrick. And then the secure authentication lifecycle management. This part will be handled by Bernard. And before we close the session with some questions from your side. As Nadine mentioned, if you have any questions during at any moment, you may just raise your hand and we will give you the stage. Just before, when we start talking about the current risk related to digital identity, you may have seen some big attacks that might have been recent or in the past few years. For example, Reddit, who suffered a phishing campaign against them, who was able to extract some data. Same for Uber. A famous one was also Okta, which is an identity provider who was targeted. And last year, you might have heard about the Jaguar Land Rover case, where it started from the attack started from an external company, but it used the same techniques, which is basically sending a phishing link or whatever to a user and getting that identity from there. But let's see what's your digital identity first, so that we are covered and we understand what we are talking about. Basically, everything what you do online, you are using a digital identity. Could be your work account, your Google account, your Apple ID account, your banking account, whatever this is linking you to yourself. You may have multiple accounts on these platforms or reseller or shops, but in the end, it's your digital identity, it's your footprint across the internet. And what we want to present today is how can you really protect this in your organization and really help your users understand why this is needed. This is needed today because identity is the new target. It's the asset that is being attacked and targeted every day. Let's say if we start from credential stuffing, so they might find a list on the dark web containing your username and password, or spoofing, where they might make you think that it's an important phone call from someone, or of course phishing, which is the most let's say used technique out there. Let it with mail, SMS, Teams, or voice. And you don't just take my word for it. If we look at the stats coming from the Swiss cybersecurity department, let's say, they got for this week they already received 264 cases of phishing. And if we look at the trends throughout the year, we can see that it's not slowing down. It's sometimes going up a bit, but keep in mind that this is reported issues, so it might be a bit higher than that. And of course, identities, the target is also changing. Nowadays, AI is used to create synthetic content for phishing so that it's really close to what is real. And identity-based attacks increased by 32% in 2025, 97 of them being password attacks. So if you go back to what I was saying before with the credential stuffing or the phishing, um, you have to protect its identity and making sure that there is no way to use the password. We will see later on why. And you might think that it's really complicated to do or really something complicated to implement your organization, but really you can take immediate action by implementing phishing resistant multi-factor authentication, which will then block 99% of identity-based attacks, even when the attackers have correct passwords. Always keep in mind that you should base your multi-factor authentication around something you have and something you are, and not something you know, which could then be targeted to gather the information from a user. You might be thinking, why should we have something that's phishing resistant? I will just give you a short introduction, and Patrick will later on explain to you in detail how it works. But one of your users, he might receive this page, this login page from Microsoft in a normal looking email. But for you and I, who are experts, we can directly see that the URL is completely wrong and not from Microsoft, but your users might not. And phishing resistant will directly protect them at this point. Of course, we will always tell to our customer that they should use is passwordless, either with an authenticator, Windows Hello, or what we recommend even more, a FIDO2 security key or certificates. Because attackers, they can attack everything that's located before these four options. So password and SMS, this can all be used, this can all be targeted by malicious people to maybe get inside your company, or go from your company to another company, or just get one account in your company and start from there. But of course, in the market, there is multiple different hardware products from different vendors, but YubiKey is really the leader in the market, and it's the one that we at Nomasis recommend. And with that, I would like to um, give over to Patrick, who will explain to you a bit more how everything works.
Thank you, Fabian. Very interesting already. So let me introduce myself as well. I'm Patrick Schnell from Yubico. I'm worked there as a channel manager for more than 6 years now, and I'm an advocate for YubiKeys, and that's my topic for today. And I would like to introduce you a bit to what is Yubico doing and how we can help you to get to this state of a phishing resistant user in your organization. So the YubiKey, as Fabian mentioned, is one of these hardware security keys. It is the original pass key, how this standard did created years ago, involving YubiKey a lot, or Yubico a lot as an organization, creating this alliance and drive the standard. Today you will find different forms of pass keys, but the ultimate secure way of doing it is using a pass key with a hardware bound device like a YubiKey. That will give you this proven security, zero account takeover promise. Let's say we made this key in Sweden, so our full supply chain is within Europe. We use parts from Germany, from Infineon. We use machines from Austria, and we build those things in Sweden with our own people. We have a multi-protocol approach. We will see this later on with Bernhard and the point sharp solution as well, where we can see again this multi-protocol approach, because we have different different use cases, different solutions we like to solve with this one very secure device. And you can have, let's say, all this experience without having a mobile which need a battery, or you need even mobile coverage to do an authentication, which then it's the legacy technology. But let's continue this in an example later on. So simply understand the YubiKey as a bit as the key, as you have your door key to your main door on your house. The YubiKey is the same for all your digital doors that you have, your personal identity, and of course today we talk about your organizational identity, where we can help with clever solutions to really solve that point. What is the YubiKey? Is really, it's a flexible solution that is also future-proof to guide you through the next challenges you will see with authentication, because the technique behind passkeys are really, really strong. There are different form factors. I will not go into deep about that. So you can always ask Fabian and the team which of the YubiKeys are matching best to your requirements. But there is a bunch of different options you can get from us. So there is always the fitting key for your requirements, let's say, at the end. And I can always repeat, it is built in Europe. We taking security really, really serious on that point. I think this is really important. And about the flexibility, and you will hear some of these names again later on. So we're talking about a multi-protocol device, which brings all the needed technology you need today to have, as well as passwordless and phishing resistant technology, alongside with some of the older protocols as well, which you may need until you go into the next generation, or let's say you have this one legacy use case that you still like to solve with an OTP, for example. So the YubiKey will support you in all these efforts. So you see you have a variety of protocols. Again, you will do a project with Nomasis. They will analyze the systems together with you, and they will come up with which protocol is best to use in your case, which protocol we can use together with the point sharp solution to maybe do not need another authentication. So we have a single sign-on through that place. So there is a lot of possibilities you can do in the combination of different protocols on one single device. Bernhard, you have a question.
Yeah, just because you're talking about different protocols, right? So not every use case, of course, is the same at each customer's, correct? So maybe sometimes just you want to just do FIDO or passkey for authentication, but otherwise it's a certificate, and both is capable the YubiKey of, and also legacy applications. And I just want to point out that not all YubiKeys feature all these, but you can also have different sets of hardware which provide different, let's say, slices of the piece of YubiKey you show here in this very nice picture, I think.
Thank you for this addition, and you get hired soon, I guess. You can describe really good the YubiKey product. Thank you, Bernhard, for that. No, it's right. There is different models available. Some of them not support all these protocols, but the main YubiKey 5 series, they supporting all these different protocols, 192 credentials on a single YubiKey. It's technically possible, so nobody will ever use that much credentials on one single device, but it's technically possible to do. We will later learn from you, Bernhard, why you don't need that many authentications and different credentials in the optimal world of authentication. But let's take again a bit the example that Fabian showed before, and I really like to push a bit for that. Think about, you see this website, your user gets tricked to enter his username and password on this well-looking Microsoft page. In the real life, they send it to the attacker. The attackers send it for us because they are really nice guys. They send it for us to the original platform, and this platform will release any kind of legacy authentication. So you may see some of these techniques: mobile apps, push apps, OTPs, SMS, email, voice. So there's a variety of technologies, which is a media break. So you start authentication on this device, you continue on the other device, and then you need to jump back into your original request. And that's where the people tricks us. They trick not the technology, they trick people using the technology in this case. What they really do is they make the login for us, because the people already trusted first side, so they will trust the second side, ask for their 6-digit number as well, and give the attacker everything he needs. So he don't need to hack, he needs to log in, and that's really what is happening 1,000 times, 100,000 times, 1,000,000 times every single day. And this is the problem with all the legacy technology a lot of customers still use. But how we can help us, the passkey technology alongside with the smart card technology, how these technologies get phishing resistant? What is the trick to really outbeat the attacker by simply using the technique? So we have the same example, but one thing changed. In the optimal world, your employee don't have a password. So he can maybe give his account name, but he will already fail to provide a password alongside to it. But anyhow, they type in something from the past, so the attackers still try to do the same thing. They authenticate us against the original site, but then something magic happens. The site asks directly back, okay, please show me your passkey, show me your smart card, prove your identity. So, and the attacker do not have the key. They need to own the key physically, and they need to know the PIN. So you know this from your bank card. It's the same thing. You have something, you know something. This is real MFA. And that can never be done by an attacker from a remote perspective. So that makes this really powerful, because we can block it here, and your employee will not be responsible for making this decision. This decision will be made by a technology. And this comes, and Bernhard has much more in that direction. If you think about the old world, you may start adding YubiKey to a various bunch of services which support YubiKeys, which is great, but it's not really comfortable to manage. It has some problems with people lost keys. Again, Bernhard will jump in later on these topics and show you exactly how this is working. But the right side, this is the real important stuff. That's why you need Nomasis to guide you through. You need a user identity in your company, and this identity need to be secured by optimal world, by a YubiKey and getting passwordless. And then use single sign-on and all these great things you have maybe in place, or you get through a solution like PointSharp. Then you can really leverage this. Okay, the user has one credential on the device, and with this credential he can authenticate against all his organizational accounts that he needs to. So it's simply passwordless is here. You can achieve this by today's available solutions, so your people don't need to care about passwords anymore. You get rid of them, and you get a much higher security here on this end. And it's really about creating this phishing resistant user, not only for doing the actual thing to log in. It starts really before that, and it ends after that, because you already have an onboarding procedure with your employee. So you need to take care about these facts, you need to take care about the registration of a new authentication, and you need to have recovery in mind. What's happened in the worst case? Again, I will not pick too much on this, because Bernhard has all these examples, and I need to hurry that he can show you all these examples. So I make it really quickly. Yubico can support you alongside with Nomasis, with a YubiKey as a service offering, so you can get them really flexible. We can help you with pre-reg those. We can help you with delivery to various locations around the globe to get your employees stuff with YubiKeys. And that's my last slide, and I'm very happy to hand over to Bernhard after here. So we can reach 199 locations worldwide for you and help you to roll out YubiKeys. So happy to join you in this project. And Bernhard, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this nice and smooth preparation for my slides, so to say. Well, we heard about PointShop today, and before we start with some facts about it, PointShop, I just want to say, is a European software company, which means all our solutions are programmed in Europe, provided in Europe, and if we provide a hosting option for them, of course, it's hosted in Europe. When it comes to the applications we had, we do this by different locations. We have 6 offices all over Europe, a lot of customers, and this is just what I wanted to point out. To me, I'm solutions engineer at PointShop, and you will speak to me once you have a request when it comes to technical questions on one of our products and how an implementation could look like. I will be the guide guiding you through and being the consultant on that matter over the sales process and even later on. So when it comes to the YubiKeys and phishing resistant authentication, we have different measures, right? We heard that we have a PIF, which is just one of the slices of a nice YubiKey you have where you can store user certificates. And user certificates is an established technology which allows you to log into computers or to applications even securely by just entering a PIN without a password. Of course, this has to be stored on a token, in this case a YubiKey, where it can be conveniently fit in. And what our solution brings in is multiple aspects you might not know of, because certificates are there for a long time. But how do you manage them? And how do I enroll them, right? So you have a certificate somewhere in Microsoft CA, and you want to have, or actually you know how to enroll them there, but how do you get them to the YubiKey? And how do I track and monitor that how long it will be available until it will become invalid, how to renew it. Actually, not only we give you an overview on easy processes on onboarding them, I mean, rolling out certificates to YubiKeys, but also nice and easy hints on when it's time to update them to to rule out a new certificate once it's expiring, right? And PIN complexity when it comes to UMERT, we are not using passwords, but pins here for logging to devices and applications. And also an overview on actually, hey, which user has which YubiKey, which serial number, and which certificate is on it, how long is it available? All that stuff you will have in a nice and convenient overview in one of our web applications for doing so. And on top, also reporting and logging mechanisms, which means who has, rolled out a certificate on which device, what happened. So you also can trust, of course, your administrators always, but have a full audit trail on that matter, and also all the authentication processes that might not succeed. Just imagine someone's trying to log in and obviously seems to forget his PIN from time to time. Of course, this will be logged and shown and be displayed to the administrators as well. Of course, there's also a self-service portal allowing users to roll out a new certificate. This is one of our key points, right? Whatever workflow we have on mind, who is going to enroll a certificate to YubiKey? We can pretty much tailor the workflow to your requirements, enable the user self-service for doing so, even allow rolling out of certificates on behalf by a user themselves. Even before the login, to the computer, we can roll out certificates. And this is all about managing life cycles, right? Looking at the time, I'm just mentioning a few things here that we have an activation, renewal, but blocking and unlocking as well when it comes to certificates. We have a handy application which is reading the certificates from any token, and you see Windows, Chrome OS, Linux, and Mac OS, a middleware which is allowing you to log into certain devices by our software, but also convenient ways on rolling out certificates, like just one example here. You get a link by email a user for plugging in to it, following to a self-service portal where he pretty much can smoothly roll out his own YubiKey by just a few simple clicks here, setting the PIN, and at the end of the day, it's rollout and the login without password, but only with PIN is possible, right? This is just one option. You see unlocking password is set. I'm just a little bit skipping it here to the more important parts, writing certificate, right, and tasks completed. But as well, we have a handy feature allowing to renew the certificate. Just imagine it's going to expire in 24 days. What's happening? User gets a pop-up. Certificate will be extended by the means of a few questions. Actually, it's just one question with yes and no as an answer, right? Either you want to have an extension or not. And then you see it is automatically renewed and rolled out. When I mentioned you also can enroll a certificate directly to the key without logging in. You see this is pretty much the way. It's just an officer, someone in your company is starting a task, giving you a code via phone, for example, and then accordingly a certificate is rolled out to the YubiKey as well. You see there are many ways, and I cannot mention all of them. Patrick, yeah, please shoot.
Sorry about that. So if I remember my slides correctly, I talked about registration, I talked about the step before the onboarding, and I talked about recovery is really important. So did I get it right that you can cover all of these scenarios with your solution?
Certainly, of course. If someone has to recover his key, it's pretty much enrolling a new certificate to another device, if it's lost, if it's damaged, whatever. But of course, we can determine processes and tailors to your requirements, to everyone's requirements, pretty much, right? But this was just the smart card part I was talking at the moment. But good listeners realize that we have also something which is quite handy at the moment. This is what we, of course, the part of, passkeys. But did this answer your question, Patrick?
Yes, of course.
Perfect. What we, besides on the PIF storage, which means the smart card authentication, we also, of course, provide a solution for, registering passkeys to example Enter ID. You see exactly that by our access management solution. You might realize that there are, this was a little quick. You see, we have multiple options for logging in to various web applications and to manage different security tokens here. This is just the easy way to roll out a passkey in Enter ID, for example, and still have an overview in your environment who has which YubiKey, which token is addressed to whom, and it can be used pretty much. And it's one step. You just add a new security key here with a simple name, test, and then you just follow the security mechanisms of your operating system. In this case, this is how it looks like. I guess it's a Chrome browser in Windows. Yeah, set your or enter your YubiKey PIN, right? Once it's, by the way, the PIN is the same for smart card as well as FIDO as well. So you just have to remember one PIN as all those secure. Follow the steps and enter your PIN phrase as well. PIN phrase, PIN. You get a point, I guess. And the passkey is saved. And once you reload it on the right pen, this is just a check. You now see it's enrolled. Reload the screen in Entra console, and you see it's handy, automatically enrolled there as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. And in both ways, by the way, you mentioned earlier, it's always a TLS check, right? So you cannot sign into another website with the same passkey because it's pretty much stored in the security mechanism itself. So a passkey does only fit to one website. So it's like,
And the one big thing on security,
pretty much, right?
and the one big thing on security keys like a YubiKey is that the private part of this passkey can never leave the YubiKey. So that's the idea of the whole thing. You can't copy it, you can't extract it. It will be generated in the hardware. So this makes this thing so hard for third parties, the bad guys, to attack us on this technology.
Absolutely, this is so true, and this makes it so secure, going passwordless, which you know how to do and deal. Maybe just a quick wrap up on this topic we had here. Now we know why using phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication is absolutely necessary, how YubiKey can help with the hardware, and what PointSharp provides when it comes to the software part of that, right? So all you need to know for having a phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication.
We end this webinar at this point, and I wish you all a very nice evening. Thank you for joining.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day.